Commander Zekthul's 4 purple arms moved across the control panel with practiced ease. His scaled fingers danced over the glowing buttons as he reviewed the morning patrol reports. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion hummed with quiet efficiency. Everything was normal in this section of the galaxy's outer rim. "Commander," called Lieutenant Yexenal from the sensor station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range scanners." Zekthul's large yellow eyes focused on the younger officer. "Define strange, Lieutenant." "There's a vessel approaching from the dead zone, sir. The readings don't match any known ship class in our database." The dead zone. That empty patch of space where no intelligent life existed. At least, that's what the Imperial surveys had concluded 50 years ago. Nothing out there but a few primitive worlds with basic life forms. "Put it on the main screen," Zekthul ordered. The massive view screen flickered to life, showing the dark expanse of space dotted with distant stars. In the center, a small dot moved steadily toward their position. "Magnify," Zekthul said. The image zoomed in, and every officer on the bridge fell silent. The ship was huge, not just large by the standards of most species, but absolutely massive. It looked like someone had taken a city and strapped engines to it. "By the eternal void," whispered Lieutenant Yexenal. "What is that thing?" The vessel was nothing like the sleek, elegant ships of the Galactic Empire. Where Imperial ships curved and flowed like works of art, this thing was all angles and hard edges. It looked brutal, functional, built for one purpose only. "Run a full scan," Zekthul commanded. "I want to know everything about that ship." The sensor officer's fingers flew over his console. "Sir, the readings are unusual. The ship appears to be using primitive fusion technology, but the power output is enormous. The hull is composed of materials I don't recognize. Dense, very dense." Zekthul studied the readings. The ship was definitely alien, but not advanced by galactic standards. Yet something about it made his scales itch with worry. "Open a communication channel," he decided. "Standard first contact protocol." The communications officer nodded and began transmitting the universal greeting. Every species in the galaxy knew this signal. It was always the first step toward joining the Empire. On the unknown ship, alarms began to sound. "Captain Harper to the bridge," came the announcement over the ship's intercom system. Captain Lisa Harper walked onto the bridge of the USS Liberty with calm, measured steps. Her brown hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her green eyes quickly took in the situation. The bridge crew turned to look at her with expressions of barely controlled excitement. "Report," she said simply. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison stepped forward. "Ma'am, we've detected multiple alien vessels ahead. They're transmitting some kind of signal on all frequencies." Harper nodded and moved to her command chair. The bridge around her was utilitarian, built for function rather than comfort. Banks of monitors displayed tactical information, and the crew worked at stations designed for efficiency during combat. "How many ships, Jake?" 15, Captain. They're maintaining a defensive formation around what appears to be their flagship." Harper looked at the main screen, where the alien fleet hung in space like a collection of silver teardrops. Beautiful ships, she had to admit. They looked like they belonged in a museum rather than a battle. Any indication of hostile intent? "No, ma'am. The signal appears to be some kind of greeting. Our computers are working on translation." The communications system crackled to life as the translation program finished its work. "Unknown vessel. This is Commander Zekthul of the Galactic Empire. You have entered Imperial space without authorization. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded for processing." The bridge fell quiet. Every human officer looked at their captain, waiting for her response. Harper had spent her entire adult life fighting for Earth's freedom. First against the regional conflicts that had torn the planet apart, then against the aliens who had tried to establish mining colonies in the Sol system. She had never backed down from a fight, and she wasn't about to start now. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Channel open, Captain." Harper stood and faced the view screen. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone who had earned her command through blood and determination. "This is Captain Lisa Harper of the Earth Defense Force vessel USS Liberty." You are in violation of human territorial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. On the Imperial flagship, every officer stared at their commander in shock. In the 300 years of Imperial expansion, no newly contacted species had ever responded with a threat. "Sir," whispered Lieutenant Yexnall, "they're refusing to surrender." Zekthul's forearms trembled slightly. This had never happened before. Every species they encountered understood the natural order. The Empire was vast, powerful, and inevitable. Resistance was pointless. "Perhaps they don't understand," he said finally. "Transmit our standard demonstration." The Imperial ships moved into attack formation, their weapons charging with visible energy. It was a show of force designed to convince primitive species that resistance was futile. On the Liberty, Weapons Officer Amy Rodriguez watched her instruments with professional interest. "Captain, they're powering weapons. Looks like some kind of plasma array." "Are we in range?" Harper asked. "Yes, ma'am. Our railguns can reach them from here." Harper considered her options. 15 alien ships against one human vessel. The odds were not good, but she had faced worse. During the siege of New Geneva, her ground forces had been outnumbered 50-1. They had won that battle by refusing to fight fair. "Chief Blake," she called to the engine room over the intercom. "Yes, Captain. I need everything you can give me. Full power to weapons and shields." "You got it, Captain. Pushing the reactors to maximum output now." Deep in the ship's engineering section, Chief Engineer Ryan Blake worked quickly to redirect power flow. The Liberty had been designed by humans who understood that sometimes you needed more power than the manual said was safe. Harper turned to her weapons officer. "Amy, lock onto their flagship. Load kinetic penetrators." "Aye, Captain. Railguns loaded and ready." The Imperial fleet completed its formation, weapons glowing with deadly energy. Commander Zekthul opened the communication channel one more time. "Final warning, human vessel. Surrender now or be destroyed." Captain Harper looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. These men and women had volunteered for humanity's first deep space mission. They knew the risks. They were ready. "Amy," she said quietly, "show them what humans do to bullies." "Firing now, Captain." The Liberty's railguns spoke with thunder that could be felt through the ship's hull. Solid projectiles, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed, streaked across space toward the Imperial fleet. On the Eternal Dominion, alarms began screaming warnings that no one understood. The first human railgun rounds hit the Imperial cruiser Starlight Dawn with devastating force. The ship's energy shields, designed to deflect plasma bolts and laser beams, offered no protection against solid metal traveling at incredible speed. The projectiles punched through the hull like it was made of paper. Commander Zekthul watched in horror as the elegant ship broke apart in a shower of sparks and debris. Alarms screamed across the Imperial fleet as officers tried to understand what had just happened. "Impossible," whispered Lieutenant Yexnall. "Our shields should have stopped any attack." "Report," Zekthul shouted over the noise. "Sir, the Starlight Dawn is gone. The Crystal Wind and Void Singer are reporting hull breaches. I don't understand how their weapons penetrated our defenses." Zekthul's forearms moved frantically across his control panel. In 300 years of Imperial expansion, no primitive species had ever destroyed a ship during first contact. The humans had just killed 300 Imperial citizens with their opening shot. "All ships return fire immediately," he ordered. The Imperial fleet opened up with everything they had. Plasma bolts and energy beams streaked across space toward the human ship. The Liberty disappeared behind a wall of explosive light as the alien weapons struck her shields. On the human bridge, Captain Harper gripped her command chair as the ship shook under the assault. "Damage report," she called out. "Forward shields. Down to 60%, reported Jake Morrison. Hull integrity holding, no casualties." Harper nodded grimly. The Liberty had been built to take punishment. Human ships were designed by engineers who understood that sometimes you had to absorb enemy fire while delivering your own. "Chief Blake, I need more power to the shields," she said into her communicator. "Already on it, Captain," came the reply from engineering. Routing power from life support and non-essential systems. The ship's lights dimmed as power flowed to the defensive systems. The crew worked in the semi-darkness, their faces lit by the glow of instrument panels. "Amy, reload, and fire at will," Harper ordered. "Aye, Captain," targeting the largest ship. The Liberty's railguns fired again. This time the rounds struck the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion. The massive ship staggered under the impact, its elegant hull cracking along stress lines. "Hull, breach on deck 7 through 12, reported the Imperial Damage Control Officer. "We're losing atmosphere." Commander Zekthul couldn't believe what he was seeing. The human ship was smaller than his flagship, using primitive technology, yet it was winning this battle. Worse, it seemed to be getting stronger as the fight continued. "Sir," called the sensor officer, "the human ship is doing something strange. It's accelerating directly toward us." Zekthul looked at the tactical display. The human vessel was indeed moving forward, diving straight into the middle of the Imperial formation. It was either suicide or madness. Captain Harper stood on her bridge, watching the alien ships grow larger on the main screen. The Liberty was built like a flying fortress, designed to fight at close range where her heavy weapons would be most effective. "Jake, take us right through their formation," she ordered. "Captain, that's 15 ships. They'll tear us apart." Harper smiled grimly. "They're trying to fight us like gentlemen. Time to show them how humans fight." The Liberty plowed into the Imperial fleet like a battering ram. Her thick armor absorbed enemy fire while her weapons carved through alien ships at point-blank range. The Imperial vessels, built for elegant long-range combat, were helpless at close quarters. Communication Officer Tony Mitchell worked frantically at his station, intercepting enemy transmissions and feeding tactical information to the weapons systems. "Captain, I'm picking up panic in their communications. They're calling for reinforcements and trying to figure out what our weapons are." "Let them panic," Harper replied. "Amy, target their engines. I want them dead in space." The weapons officer grinned as she locked onto the alien ships. "With pleasure, Captain." The Liberty's railguns spoke again and again. Each shot was carefully aimed to cripple rather than destroy. Harper wanted prisoners, not corpses. She needed to understand who these aliens were and what they wanted. Within minutes, half the Imperial fleet was disabled. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but the human vessel was faster than they expected. The Liberty pursued them relentlessly, picking them off one by one. "Sir, we need to withdraw," Lieutenant Yexnall pleaded. "We can't fight this thing." "Commander," Zekthul's pride warred with his common sense. The Imperial Navy had never retreated from a primitive species. But his ships were being destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. "All ships fall back to the outer system," he finally ordered. "Maintain long-range fire." The Imperial ships limped away from the battle, their elegant hulls scarred and burning. Behind them, the human ship held position, its weapons still trained on the fleeing aliens. On the Liberty, Captain Harper surveyed the aftermath of the battle. Her ship had taken damage, but nothing critical. The alien fleet was scattered and broken. "Casualties?" she asked. "None, Captain," reported Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sam Phillips. "Some minor injuries from the shaking, but nothing serious." Harper nodded, satisfied. The first rule of human military doctrine was to bring everyone home alive. They had accomplished their mission without losing a single life. "Tony, are you still intercepting their communications?" "Yes, Captain. They're transmitting on multiple frequencies. Sounds like they're calling this in to their superiors." "What are they saying?" Tony listened for a moment, then looked up with a grin. "They're trying to explain how a primitive ship with ancient weapons just destroyed half their fleet. From what I can tell, their commanders don't believe them." Harper allowed herself a small smile. The aliens had made the same mistake that humans had learned to avoid. They had underestimated their enemy. "Jake, set course for the outer system. We'll shadow their retreat and see what they do next." "Aye, Captain." Following at long range, the Liberty moved through space like a predator stalking wounded prey. Her crew worked efficiently, repairing damage and reloading weapons for the next engagement. In the engineering section, Chief Blake pushed the fusion reactors beyond their design limits. The human ship ran hot and loud, nothing like the quiet efficiency of alien technology. But it worked, and that was all that mattered. "Amy, what's our weapons status?" Harper asked. Railguns are fully loaded, Captain. We've got plenty of ammunition and the targeting systems are working perfectly. Harper nodded. The Liberty was ready for round 2. Across the system, Commander. Zekthul composed his report to Imperial Command. How do you explain that a single primitive ship had destroyed or disabled 10 advanced Imperial vessels? How do you tell your superiors that humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen? The answer was simple. You told the truth and hoped they believed you. Priority transmission to Imperial Command, he ordered. Code red. Request immediate. Reinforcements. We have encountered a hostile species that poses a significant threat to Imperial forces. The message streaked across space at faster-than-light speed, carrying news that would shake the foundations of the Galactic Empire. Somewhere, in the dark between the stars, humanity had announced its presence with thunder and fire. The galaxy would never be the same. The emergency meeting of the Imperial High Command took place in the crystal towers of the capital world. Admiral Krixval, the Empire's most decorated military leader, stood before a holographic display showing the wreckage of Commander Zekthul's fleet. This cannot be accurate, declared Senator Quillnax, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly. A single primitive vessel destroying 10 Imperial ships? Impossible. Admiral Krixval's scales darkened with anger. The sensor logs don't lie, Senator. These humans have weapons we've never encountered before. Solid projectiles fired at enormous velocities. Our shields are useless against them. But how? Asked General Vorthak. Their technology readings show primitive fusion reactors and basic metal construction. They should be centuries behind us. The Admiral activated another display, showing detailed scans of the human ship. Look at this vessel. It's built like a fortress, not a ship. Thick armor, redundant systems, weapons designed for close combat. They built it to take damage and keep fighting. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every species the Empire had encountered built ships for efficiency and elegance. The humans built theirs for war. What do we know about their homeworld? Senator Quillnax asked. Intelligence Officer Mexrin stepped forward, her tentacles holding a data pad. The planet they call Earth is classified as a death world, sir. Gravity 1.2 times galactic standard, aggressive weather patterns, and dangerous wildlife. Most concerning, the entire planet appears to be inhabited by predator species. Predators? General Vorthak leaned forward. All of them? Yes, sir. Even their food animals evolved defensive mechanisms. Everything on that world is designed to kill or avoid being killed. The humans evolved as pack hunters at the top of the food chain. Admiral, Krixval studied the reports with growing unease. No wonder the humans fought so differently. They came from a world where violence was a daily reality. How many ships do they have? He asked. Unknown, sir. We've only encountered one vessel, but our long-range sensors detect significant industrial activity in their system. They appear to be building more ships. The Admiral made his decision. I'll take the 3rd Fleet to deal with this threat. 50 ships should be sufficient to handle one human vessel, regardless of their weapons. 3 days later, the Imperial 3rd Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the human system. Admiral Krixval commanded from the bridge of the Super Dreadnought Galactic Pride, the largest warship in the Imperial Navy. Sir, we're detecting multiple human vessels, reported the sensor officer. 3 ships holding position near the 4th planet. Admiral Krixval smiled with satisfaction. 3 ships against 50. The humans had made a fatal error by dividing their forces. On the bridge of the USS Liberty, Captain Harper received word of the approaching fleet from her sensors officer. 50 ships, Captain. All heavily armed. They're coming in fast. Harper activated her communicator. Captain Parker, Captain Santos, you receiving this? Copy that, Lisa, came the voice of Captain Steve Parker from the USS Defiance. My crew is ready for a fight. Resilient standing by, added Captain Maria Santos. Let's show these aliens what happens when they bring friends to a human fight. The 3 human ships moved into formation, but not the elegant line formation favored by the Empire. They spread out in a triangle, each ship covering the other's blind spots. It was a formation designed for mutual support and maximum firepower. Lieutenant Ben Cooper, the Liberty's tactical officer, studied the approaching fleet with professional interest. Captain, they're maintaining tight formation. If we can break their line, we can force them to fight us piecemeal. Harper nodded. The humans had learned this lesson in countless wars on Earth. Concentrate your forces against part of the enemy's strength, defeat it, then move on to the next part. All ships, execute Plan Bravo, she ordered. The human vessels accelerated toward the gas giant nearby, using its massive gravity well to build speed. The Imperial fleet, expecting a conventional engagement, was caught off guard by the maneuver. They're diving toward the planet, reported the Imperial sensor officer. Their trajectory doesn't make sense. Admiral Crixvoll frowned. Maintain. Pursuit. Don't let them escape into the planet's atmosphere. The Imperial ships followed, their formations beginning to stretch as some vessels accelerated faster than others. This was exactly what the humans wanted. Captain Santos, commanding the trailing human ship, watched her instruments carefully. Now, she whispered. The Resilience fired a spread of nuclear warheads into the gas giant's upper atmosphere. The explosions created a massive radiation burst that temporarily blinded the Imperial sensors. What was that? Admiral Crixvoll demanded. Nuclear detonation, sir. The humans just exploded several atomic weapons in the planet's atmosphere. Why would they waste ammunition like that? The answer came seconds later as the three human ships emerged from behind the planet at incredible speed, using the gravity slingshot effect to accelerate far beyond their normal capabilities. Captain Harper's voice echoed across the human fleet communications. All ships concentrate fire on their lead elements. Magnetic acceleration, full power. The human ships had been modified with magnetic accelerators that could launch debris at tremendous velocities. They had collected wreckage from the previous battle and now used it as ammunition. Chunks of destroyed Imperial ships accelerated to deadly speeds, slammed into the advancing fleet. The aliens had never faced an enemy that turned their own losses into weapons. Evasive action, Admiral Crixvoll shouted, but it was too late. The improvised projectiles tore through his formation, disabling 6 ships in the first salvo. Captain Parker, commanding the Defiance, targeted the Imperial flagship with his railguns. Let's see how their pride holds up against good old human engineering. The massive projectiles struck the Galactic Pride with devastating force. The super dreadnought's shields failed, and its elegant hull cracked like an eggshell. On the Imperial bridge, emergency lighting cast strange shadows as damage control teams rushed to contain the breaches. Sir, primary weapons are offline, reported the weapons officer. Shield generators are destroyed. We're dead in space. Admiral Crixvoll couldn't believe what was happening. His 50-ship fleet was being torn apart by 3 human vessels using tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Signal the fleet to scatter, he ordered. Reform at long range and prepare for bombardment. But the human ships didn't give them the chance. They pursued the fleeing Imperial vessels with relentless efficiency, picking them off one by one. Every time the aliens tried to form a battle line, the humans would use some unexpected tactic to break it up. Lieutenant Cooper, monitoring Imperial communications, looked up from his station. Captain, they're calling us demons and void spirits. I don't think they understand what they're fighting. Harper allowed herself a grim smile. They're about to learn. Amy, target their command ship. I want prisoners this time. The Liberty's weapons spoke with controlled precision, disabling the Imperial flagship's engines while leaving life support intact. The great ship drifted helplessly as human boarding parties prepared to take control. Within 6 hours, the battle was over. The Imperial Third Fleet had been destroyed or captured, with only a handful of ships escaping to carry word back to the Empire. Admiral Crixvoll sat in the human brig, his pride as shattered as his fleet. A human guard brought him water and food, treating him with more courtesy than he expected. Why? He asked the guard, a young woman named Kelly. Why do you fight this way? Kelly looked at him with something like pity. Because that's what humans do, sir. We survive, and we protect what's ours. The news of the Third Fleet's destruction reached the Imperial capital at light speed. In the Crystal Towers, panic was beginning to set in. The humans weren't just resistant to conquest, they were actively dangerous. For the first time in 300 years, the Galactic Empire faced an enemy they couldn't simply overwhelm with superior numbers and technology. The humans fought, with a ferocity and cunning that the galaxy had never seen. Senator Quillnax called for another emergency session. The Empire needed to decide: escalate the conflict and risk total war with these terrifying humans, or find another solution before the situation got completely out of control. In the depths of space, more human ships were being built in secret. Shipyards and Earth's military planners were already working on their next surprise for the Galactic Empire. The Imperial Senate chamber had never seen such chaos. Senators from 1,000 worlds shouted at each other in dozens of languages while emergency reports flooded in from across the galaxy. The news of Admiral Crixavole's defeat had spread like wildfire, and panic was setting in. "Order! Order!" Senator Quillnax banged his ceremonial staff against the floor. "We must address this crisis with calm minds." "Calm?" roared General Vorthak, his massive frame towering over the other delegates. "These humans have destroyed 2 of our fleets. They've taken Imperial prisoners. This is war. A war we appear to be losing," observed Senator Yilneth quietly. Her words cut through the noise like a blade, and the chamber fell silent. Intelligence Officer Mexrin stepped forward with her latest reports. "Senators, we have new information about the human species. Our xenobiology teams have analyzed captured communications and prisoner interviews." She activated a holographic display showing Earth and its inhabitants. The humans call their world a death world for good reason. Their entire evolution was shaped by constant conflict. They have no concept of surrender, because on their world, surrender means death. "Surely they can be reasoned with," Senator Quillnax suggested hopefully. "That's the problem, sir. They are being reasonable by their standards. From their perspective, we invaded their territory and threatened their home. Their response is completely logical." General Vorthak slammed his fist on the table. "Then we escalate. Deploy the First Fleet. Show them the true power of the Empire." "With respect, General," Mexrin continued, "that might be unwise. Our intelligence suggests the humans we've encountered represent only a tiny fraction of their capability." The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Senator Yilneth raised her hand for silence. "Explain." The 3 ships that destroyed the Third Fleet were exploratory vessels, hastily converted for combat. Our prisoners have revealed that Earth has been manufacturing true warships since the first contact. Hundreds of them. The silence that followed was deafening. The Empire had thrown 90 ships at the humans and lost both engagements. If Earth had hundreds of warships, "There's more," Mexrin added reluctantly. "Human industrial capacity is unlike anything we've encountered. They can retool their entire manufacturing base in weeks. They're treating this as what they call a total war scenario." Senator Quillnax felt his heart skip a beat. "What does that mean?" "It means every human factory, every resource, every citizen is now focused on military production. They're not just building ships, they're building the infrastructure to build more ships. Their capacity is growing exponentially. On Earth, the situation was exactly as the Imperial Intelligence Officer described. Admiral Kate Thompson stood in the command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching displays that showed shipyard construction around Jupiter and Mars. "Admiral," reported Colonel Jack Davis, her chief of staff, "the latest batch of shipyards will be operational within the month. We'll be able to produce 20 new vessels per week once they're online." Thompson nodded grimly. Earth's leaders had made the decision to prepare for the worst. If the aliens wanted a fight, humanity would give them one they'd never forget. "What's the status of the new weapon systems?" she asked. "The antimatter warheads are ready for deployment. Engineering says the new railgun designs can punch through anything the aliens have. Dr. Rebecca Shaw's team has also cracked their shield technology." "Good. And the prisoners?" "Admiral Crixavole has been cooperative. He seems genuinely surprised that we're treating him well. Apparently, the Empire doesn't usually take prisoners." Thompson wasn't surprised. The aliens had probably never encountered an enemy that followed rules of war. Humans had learned the hard way that treating prisoners well often led to better intelligence and fewer future conflicts. Set up a communication link, she decided. It's time to talk. Back in Imperial space, Captain Harper received new orders from Earth Command. The message was brief but clear. Explore diplomatic options while maintaining military readiness. She opened a communication channel to the remaining Imperial ships that had retreated to the edge of the system. Imperial vessels. This is Captain Harper. I'm authorized to discuss terms. On the bridge of the damaged Eternal Dominion, Commander Zekathul couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans wanted to talk, after destroying 2 Imperial fleets. This is Commander Zekathul, he replied carefully. What terms do you propose? Mutual withdrawal to neutral positions while our governments discuss a permanent solution. We have no desire for unnecessary bloodshed. Zekathul's forearms trembled. The humans could have destroyed his remaining ships easily, but instead they were offering mercy. It was unlike anything in his experience. I will relay your message to Imperial Command. The communication that followed changed the course of galactic history. For the first time ever, the Galactic Empire found itself negotiating with a species from a position of weakness. Ambassador Ellen Martinez arrived at the neutral meeting point 3 weeks later aboard a human diplomatic vessel. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but the alien diplomats knew she represented the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever encountered. Across the conference table sat Senator Quilnax and his delegation. The Imperial negotiators were nervous, unsure how to proceed with a species that had never been conquered. Let me be clear, Ambassador Martinez began, her voice calm but firm. Humanity has no interest in conquest or expansion beyond our current territory. We simply want to be left alone. Your warships suggest otherwise, Senator Quilnax replied. Martinez smiled. Senator, those ships are insurance. We've learned that peace comes through strength. You attacked us twice unprovoked. We defended ourselves both times. The Empire has always incorporated new species into our civilization, the senator explained. It's been our way for centuries. And it ends here, Martinez stated simply. Humanity will not be incorporated, conquered, or controlled. We're willing to coexist peacefully, but only as equals. The negotiations continued for days. The Empire struggled to accept that they had met their match in these strange humans from the Death World. But the military reports were clear. Continued war would be catastrophic for the Empire. Finally, they reached an agreement. The Treaty of Terra, as historians would later call it, established humanity's right to exist as an independent power. The Empire agreed to recognize human territorial claims and refrain from expansion into human space. In return, humanity agreed to limit their expansion for 50 years and share certain non-military technologies that could benefit both civilizations. As the treaty was signed, Senator Quilnax asked the question that had been bothering him throughout the negotiations. Ambassador, your military defeated our finest fleets with ease. Why agree to any limitations at all? Martinez looked at him with something that might have been pity. Senator, because we're not monsters. We could have pressed our advantage, invaded your territory, conquered your worlds. But that's not who we are. We fight to protect what's ours, not to take what's yours. The Imperial delegation exchanged glances. This concept of voluntary restraint in victory was completely alien to them. As the ceremonies concluded, Admiral Kate Thompson sent a final message to Captain Harper and her small fleet. Well done, Captain. Come home. The USS Liberty turned away from the alien fleet and began its journey back to Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Empire struggled to understand what had just happened. Commander Zekathul, now recovered from his injuries, stood on his bridge watching the human ships depart. His sensor officer turned to him with a question. Sir, why did they let us go? They could have destroyed us all. Zekathul considered the question carefully. Because they're not like us, Lieutenant. They're predators, yes, but they have honor. They fight to protect, not to conquer. The young officer looked confused. I don't understand the difference, sir. Neither did I, Zekathul admitted. But I'm beginning to learn. As news of the treaty spread throughout the galaxy, One fact became clear to every species. Humanity had changed everything. For the first time in Imperial history, a newly contacted species had not only survived first contact, but forced the Empire to treat them as equals. In the depths of space, human shipyards continued their work, building vessels that would ensure such negotiations would always be conducted from a position of strength. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating the species from the small blue world. Humanity had announced its presence with thunder and fire, but they had chosen to make peace with wisdom and restraint. The Galactic Empire would remember both lessons for centuries to come.